This video is going to be a full tutorial on using Gutenberg, the new content editor coming to WordPress very soon. Hi, my name is Adam from WPCrafter.com, where I go over tactics and tutorials to grow your income and influence online. If you're new here, consider clicking on the subscribe button. If you don't want to miss a thing, click on the notification bell, and you're going to want those notifications because I'm dropping Gutenberg video after Gutenberg video leading up to Gutenberg's final release. So let's just jump on into it. Here we are. I have a fresh WordPress installation here. I only have Gutenberg on it. I have another couple goodies in there that we'll use in this tutorial. But right now, if you want Gutenberg, you're going to have to go to Plugins, Add New, just do a search for Gutenberg and install it. But as soon as WordPress version 5 is released, it's going to be there by default for everyone, unless you have the Classic Editor plugin installed on your website. And I did a video on that not that long ago. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go to Pages, and here we are. Now, for now, you can see where it says Add New. This is normally to add a new page. I can choose Gutenberg or the Classic Editor. I'm going to go ahead and choose Gutenberg, and the first thing you'll want to do, obviously, is go ahead and add a title. Okay, now that I have my title there, it's time for me to jump on out of this video, and we can start going over the interface. First, starting with the left, you see this plus right here, and this is where you can add a block. And blocks are the various pieces of content that are going to make up your post. And you can see the list of blocks here. However, I don't see myself ever using that plus because when you are in Gutenberg and you're creating content, you have a plus right there. It just makes more sense to me to have it right there. I know exactly where the particular block is going to be inserted. And we're going to go over blocks in a moment in this video. And then right here we have an undo and a redo. I like that. It's a much needed improvement to the WordPress editor. Next, we have the little I, and this is just going to give you information on your article, words, headings, paragraphs, blocks. It's going to help you better structure your content. And then off to the right here, we have Save as Draft, Preview, and Publish. So when you create a new piece of content, it's not going to be published until you click on that Publish button, and then you'll get the opportunity to change the URL for your piece of content. Then we have the cogwheel right here, and when you click on it, it's going to reveal the settings, and we'll get into this in a moment. I think for me, I'll probably have it open like this most of the time. Next, we have the three dots right here that will reveal additional settings. And when you click on that, you can see by default, we're using the visual editor. But if you clicked right here where it said code editor, it will show you the code version of all of your content for this particular page. Let's go back to visual editor and let's go back into those settings. Okay, so we have this option here that says fix toolbar to top. Now what this is when you are typing like this, you see how I have these options here at the top? Well, if this is distracting to you, you can have them appear up here by enabling that feature. So if I go to fix toolbar to top, you notice it moved. It was right here and now it's up there. Some people will definitely prefer this. So when you're not clicked in text, you're not going to see it. And as soon as you click into some text right here, you're going to see the toolbar fixed to the top. I think for my preferences, I prefer to have it right where the block is. There's less mouse movement there. So I'll go ahead and uncheck that, and then I'm going to get back into those settings. Okay, there's show tips. The first time you activate and create any kind of content in Gutenberg, there's going to be a few steps with some tips, and so you can turn that on. And then here's for underneath tools, there's keyboard shortcuts, and when you click on this, it's just going to show you a list of the available keyboard shortcuts in Gutenberg. Now, I tried a bunch of these, and I think they conflict with my Windows PC, and so you might have some bad luck using some of these. So one of these shortcuts I used down here was under block shortcodes. I think I did this insert a new block, which instructed me to hit Control, Alt, and T, and it made my whole computer go haywire. So you might want to be careful with these keyboard shortcuts, but it's nice that they're there for us. And then here is an option to copy all the content. This is what happens when you click it. It just changes and says copied, and now it's in your clipboard. You don't see any visual indication here of highlighting, copying, and pasting or anything like that. It just pops it right into your clipboard. And those are the settings, and so far we've covered everything right here on this top bar. Next, let's take a look at the document settings. So right here in this panel, I can click where it says document. Now each block will have its own settings and they'll appear dynamically here where it says block. But for now, let's take a look at our document settings. And these are going to be very similar to what you're already used to if you've used WordPress before. You have this status. So this is the visibility. Is your post public? Has it been published or whatnot? And when you click on it, you can see you'll get this little pop-up with the various options. This is different than how it used to be before. So these are your standard WordPress options: public, private, and password protected. Okay, and then right here for publish, this is different. Now when you click on it, you get a calendar. So if you want to backdate a post or future date a post, this is how you can easily do it right here. And we also have an option here to trash this particular post if we wanted to. Now the rest of the options here for the document, they're all collapsed. When you click on them, they will expand. And so right here, I can set a featured image. Right here is for discussion. This is if I want to allow comments or not. This used to appear at the bottom of the classic editor. To keep this tidy, collapse those. We have our page attributes right here, and this is if there's a parent page. And we have, this is specific to the theme that I'm using, the Astro theme. It has its settings here in the right bar. Now, if you're using a WordPress theme that has one of those very large option boxes at the underneath the typical classic editor, what you would see in that scenario is down here underneath it, you would see those options there, as well as if you're using something like Yoast that used to have a lot of options that you would see underneath the content area. As well, you would see those down below right here. So now let's go ahead and take a look at these blocks. So I'm going to click right here, and actually I'm going to click out of it. It takes a little getting used to. When you hover over a block, you can see right there, I have this option right here to insert a block above this. But if I wanted to insert a block beneath it, I would click in there, hit on enter, and then here we are. So I'm going to go over the anatomy of a block from left to right. So first on the left, you have this plus. When you hover over, it says add block. When you click on it, you will see a list of the available blocks for your website. Now, I find the fastest thing for me is just to search for the block. I'm sure you're going to get used to using particular blocks, and this is how you'd go ahead and do it, or we'll scroll through it. So you're going to first see a list of the most used blocks, and then you're going to see inline elements. This would be if you have a image and then maybe some text off to the right or the left of that image. So that's going to be your inline elements. Then we have your common blocks, which is paragraphs, lists, gallery, cover image, heading, quote, audio, file, subheading, and video. And a lot of these are self-explanatory, but we're going to take a look at some of these when we get into more of using these blocks in a moment. Then we have some formatting blocks, and this is if you wanted to put some code. Classic, this is going to be interesting. We're going to talk about this. This is the classic editor inside of Gutenberg. You might not have realized that that's available to you, but we're going to get into that in a moment and the times that you would actually be using that. Custom HTML, pre-formatted, pull quote, table. Table is very nice. This was not in the classic editor, and this is one of the nice things about Gutenberg is now we have a table element in there, and it's complete point and click to fill in the cells of that table. It's quite nice. And then verse. Then we have some layout elements right here, which is a button. You can have columns, and it says it's currently in beta. I've used it. It works fine. More, page break separator, spacer. Now right here for widgets, it's going to pull in some of the widgets that are available in WordPress, but it's not all of them. And I would imagine that over time, you're going to see plugin developers where they normally make a widget for your sidebar, have those widgets also appear here inside of Gutenberg. Next, right here we have embeds, and this is a big, long, exhausted list of embeds. So if I wanted to embed, say, for example, a YouTube video, I could click on this, paste in my URL, and it's going to embed that for me. So these are the various blocks that are available. And as soon as you choose a block, so I'll choose image, you're going to see if it's a content block where you're typing, you could just start typing. Or in this case, you see it's going to ask me to select the image. I'll go ahead and do that right now. Let's go ahead and just choose this image, click on select, and now I have an image in there. And then right here, I can just type my caption if I wanted to. And this is one of the benefits of using Gutenberg. You kind of have this point and click interface. There we go, my caption. Okay, so now we have this block underneath here. So we've talked about what happens when you click on the plus. And right off to the right, you see these faint icons. Now, these are going to dynamically change. These are your 3 most recently used blocks, and they're here, so you can just quickly click on it and change the format of this block to those if you wanted to. And then lastly, you have the more options, and these are going to be on just specific to the particular block that you're in. So for example, right here for my image, I'm going to click on the 3 dots, and these are the options I have available here for me. I can block the settings, I can duplicate, I can insert before. This is basically so I can insert a block before here, insert after, so I can insert a block after here. I can edit this as HTML, and then I can also add this to reusable blocks. So essentially, you can create a block and save it and reuse it anywhere else on your website. It's very nice. Or I can click right here where it says remove block. But before I remove the block, I want to show you when you click on a block, you now have block settings here on the right. And this is going to change depending on the block that you're actually clicked into. So I'm in the image block, and it's showing me the options here for the image block. And I actually like this a lot. Right here, you can actually have an easy way to add alt text to your images. This is something you didn't have before. You'd have to click on it, click on an edit button in order to do that. And then you have your size settings for your image, and this is going to change from block to block what these settings are. So right here's my text settings. When I click on it, did you notice it just changed? So right here I have some various basic text settings that I can play around with. We have color settings right here. This would be the background color of the text and the color of the text itself. And in most of these blocks, you're going to see an advanced option right there, and it's just for additional CSS classes that you want to add to the particular block that you're working in. Let's get back to the block's more settings. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on remove the block. See how easy that was? And I can go here and I can remove this block as well. And then we're left with a fresh, clean canvas. So now I want to show you how to get around the canvas of Gutenberg and work with the blocks a little better. But give me a moment. I'm going to put some information in here. Okay, I'm back. I've gone ahead and created 3 blocks. The first one's a normal text block. The second one is an image block. And the third one is a quote. Now, this is going to differ from your typical page builder where you can just click and drag things around. So you notice if I see this quote down here and I want to drag it up, it's not quite working. So there's 2 options for that. If you hover over any block, you're going to see off to the left an up arrow like that and a down arrow. Now, you can click up and it will just move it up 1. You can click down and it will move it down 1. And you can clicking on the up or the down to continue moving it. But there's an easier way that I have discovered. So if you go right off to the left of a block, but not quite on those arrows, so it's this white space, you see the mouse cursor turns from this to a hand. And what that means is you can now click and drag a greater distance to move the blocks around. So you do get a little bit of that drag and drop going around with it. And you can see right there. And when you're dragging it, you get that blue kind of bar right there. It might be hard to see as a visual indicator that if you let go, that's where that content is going to go. So you do get a little bit of drag and drop action with Gutenberg. Now I've got to say, after using Gutenberg for a while, you can see why this was actually created. You can do some things that were harder to do before, and it's more intuitive in this interface. So if I go right here, let me create a new block. I'll click the plus, I'll click on gallery, and I'm going to choose media library. And let's just go ahead and choose these 3 images, click on create gallery, insert gallery. Now I just have this great looking gallery, and I've got some settings here for columns. It was really easy to do. It's very visual, and I can move it around, something you couldn't do before. But that's not all, because you can do the same thing for columns. So I would go down and let me practice what I preach and search for column. There we go. I'll go ahead and click on column right here. And now I have 2 columns. I have a column here and I have a column there. And I can actually drag elements in there. So here is that first block I created, and I can let go. And there it is. I just dragged and dropped content into the column. You saw how easy that was to do. Now, one thing missing, if you haven't noticed, is some plugins that you use on your website. In the classic editor, it would add a kind of a toolbar icon that would allow you to take some of that plugin's functionality and drop it into what you're doing. So let me show you how that's going to work in Gutenberg if your plugin developer hasn't built a custom block for you to use. So let me go ahead and just click on Publish. And we're going to publish this post. And what's nice is when you do publish the post, you can see right there, it gives you the link. You can copy it. You can click on view. You can do all of that. And so let's go ahead and I'm going to go to the plugins right here. And I added a plugin that I know adds one of those typical options, and it's called Social Warfare, which happens to be the social button icon plugin that I use on my particular website. So now that that's activated, I'm going to go back to Pages, and I'm going to go right on into here to my first Gutenberg page or post. I'll go ahead and click in there, and I'm right back in here. So let me show you what I was talking about with that. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on the plus, and for this, I don't see Social Warfare as an option here. They haven't created a block yet for me. So what I'm going to do is put in the classic editor. So as soon as you start typing classic, it's going to appear. You click on that, and guess what? This right here is the classic editor experience. And if you see what I'm talking about right here, you have this S, and it's for social warfare buttons. And you are probably familiar with this. If you use any plugin that you need to pull in the functionality through an option like this, this is how you're going to do it in Gutenberg. So I can click on this, and this was what would normally pop up, and I would click on OK. Now normally when you are using a plugin that has a feature like this, it's really just generating a shortcode for you. Now what's nice is if you had this shortcode already, you can put it in your clipboard, and there's actually a shortcode block. So I can click on the plus and type shortcode. Here it is. I'll click on that, and I will go right here, and I will paste my shortcode in. And it's that simple. What I can do is I can, now that I've already added the shortcode, I don't need this shortcode generator. I can click right here and then remove that particular block. And then there I have it right there. So these have been the basics of getting used to Gutenberg. I want to share two more things. Number one, there's one feature in WordPress that I use all the time. I like to customize the slug for my content. So typically WordPress will take your title and it will make that into the full URL to reach this piece of content. But if you notice in Gutenberg, I didn't really get an option to set that. So all you have to do is after you've published your page or post, click on the title, and you can see it just appears right here. And this is that link. And this is where you would click on edit, and then you're able to edit the slug for your piece of content. So I'll go ahead and click OK, and that's how you're going to find where to change that permalink. Now there's one thing I use on all of my WordPress websites, and I'm sad to report that it's not an option in any of the content you create in Gutenberg. So anywhere else you are on your WordPress website, there's a screen option tab in the top right. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. So let me just right click here, and I'm going to go to the dashboard, and on every page in your WordPress website there's this option here that says screen options. You click on it, and this is where you would choose what to show or hide on that particular page. And I use this all the time because themes and plugins add so many of these option boxes to your WordPress website, and you might not need them. So for example, right here, I usually hide discussions, and I usually hide some of these options right here. Obviously, I don't have a lot of plugins installed on this website. So for me, it kind of makes Gutenberg a little tedious to work with until they restore those screen options, because if you're like me and you're really using your website and you have a bunch of plugins installed where you actually need all of the features that come with them, you want to kind of have some more control over the order of these options here, and especially underneath the piece of content that you're creating, all of those options, you want to have control over how that's laid out there as well. Unfortunately, you do not get screen options with Gutenberg, although I'm hoping that they reconsider that and add it so that users will have control over their entire experience creating content in Gutenberg. So this is my getting started with Gutenberg Gutenberg video. I hope after watching it, you will feel more familiar and comfortable using the Gutenberg interface, and that you would even take a moment to test it out on your website. Right now, you're going to definitely want to set up a staging area for your website. Hopefully, you're using a web host that provides a feature to have a staging area, or maybe on your local computer, so you can try Gutenberg on your website. And I'm sure that as you get comfortable with it, you will see that this is going to create a much more rich content creation experience for you on your website. So that's all that I have for you now in this video. If you found some value in it, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to click subscribe and the notification bell if you want to be notified as I'm uploading new tutorial videos on Gutenberg. If you have any questions for me, there's a comment section down below. You can go ahead and ask your comment or question down there. Either me or someone in the WP Crafter community will answer you. So that's all I have for you in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.